All right, welcome back to Search for Truth Reality. We've had a nice lunch together. Thank you, Bob. It's great. We're going to continue our conversation, and I know that both of you would like to cover a couple of things. I want to start with Bill, because there's some things that you definitely want to talk about. Life with the Admiral during the war.
Well, what I was alluding to is it was important to understand that the subject that's coming back from Germany by the operatives, they're bringing information back that is totally, almost unbelievable. Admiral Rico Botta many times shook his head as the operative is trying to describe that particular portion of some of these programs. It was difficult to realize that there were thousands of situations that had been implemented into Germany by the extraterrestrials, totally changing their way of life, including extending some of the Germans' life, because the extended life program was already in operation in Germany way before it got started at TRW later on in many years.
Did it actually get started at TRW, or was that just a study?
It was a study that went into a program. The program involved the four largest advanced medical companies in the country. It has been a classified program. Scripps in La Jolla, California, is heavily involved in this program. And I've talked to a number of people there at Scripps who are currently still working on this program. And I think that it's nice if you sort of let me describe what happens to people that get on the program. And there's been over, I'd say at least 50 or 60 men in the past 20 years, and probably over 40 of women that have been involved in this extended life program. And it's all the way from a few weeks of extended life out to the highest is 43 years. And so the TRW initiated program, of course, when Northrop Grumman bought TRW, they got the extended life program too. So Northrop Grumman then got more involved themselves, even with considering that they now had an enormous laboratory, one space park, Redondo Beach, with the thrust to extend our life here. And so repeating a little bit, it takes 2 or 4 shots or 4 essentially aspirins over a 4-month period, one month at a time. And you immediately start to feel better. Different people were able to, their systems were able to accept the program faster than others. Many of the fellows were really slow in getting through it, and it took them a good 4 months to make the transition. But what happens is the men return back to 29. There's different years. Some of them been 32, some of them were even 26, but 29 was the number that they finally ended up with. You go back to 29. The young ladies have always gone back to 21. The big advantage here is that you have a minimum of 400% greater capability use of your brain. And of course, if we there go back to the present time, where we are still only using 2.3% of our brain, not because that's what we have chosen, but it's because the reptilians have been controlling our minds on this planet for thousands of years. everybody asks the question, well, why is that? What does that have to do with extended life? What does that have to do with everything? Turns out that extended life allows you to physically be in the same capability that you were at that younger age. Not just live longer, but be able to have all of the muscles, all of your systems, all of your organs young. Everything about you then is only 29 years old. This then is, if you want to use a comparison, sort of an opposite direction of what some of the Solar Warden naval officers who have recently spoken publicly about returning from previous lives aboard Navy spacecraft carriers. They essentially reverse that operation, and their mind is then blocked to where they have no memory of the 20 years they spent in the Navy. Now, if they have gone ahead and developed a second phase of another 20 years in the Navy, they also had an option, I understand, to where they could start over or continue at the same age of the first 20 years. So this system has many different aspects to it. Its relationship to us in reversing our capability and increasing our technical capability is extremely important because, frankly, we don't have time in 75 years to even find out what's going on.
Which is your average lifespan of a human. So what you're saying is with the age regression, life extension, you become more capable, useful, able to contribute more because you grow up to a certain point, you become intelligent, you can increase that intelligence. This is one other effect of the life preservation that you've mentioned to me before that involves the capacity, the mental capacity. What is that?
Yeah, your mental capacity goes up 400% minimum. Some of it even to 700 and 800%, okay? This is staggering because it was already in your brain, but you haven't been using that like Nordic people that live 2,400 years or whatever, and the blue people too. But not being able to live that long restricts the use of the brain that you do have, and for the reptilians to be controlling our brain capability, that's one thing, but to prevent us from living longer, I guess you have to ask the question, well, why would they do that? If they kept us running for a longer period of time, they could use us more. But there's kind of a side effect that's in this. And it gets into an area that Bob and I have discussed, and I guess you and I have discussed too, and probably be better not to get in that part.
Okay, very well. Fair enough. I just want to make it clear for our audience that aspirin is a billism for any pill or drug. It's not you're taking 4 aspirin, so don't go run out there taking your aspirin 1 a month because it's nothing's going to happen. The blue people, you've mentioned them just a moment ago. Now, is this something from your own experience or something that you've heard from others?
I have to discuss my part because yes, there's a great deal of data about them helping us now, but essentially, one of the groups of people that were assisting TRW, Nordic people, were the blue type. The level of assistance was primarily advisory, not by a person, but by the thoughts. So the information was coming to them similar to similar to the way that I got information from my Nordic secretary at Douglas. okay, on the Apollo program. Except she was there, but she could telepathically give me the information. I could be in Huntsville, Alabama, and she's in Santa Monica, and she could tell me what to do.
She's physically present. I mean, she's in this realm. She's in this 3D world. If I'm hearing you right, the blue
people were not physically here. They were here, their minds were here, but they weren't here in their bodies.
Were you the only one experiencing the interface with the blue people?
Did I what?
Or are you the only one that's interfacing or communicating?
No, there's thousands of people that have been interfacing with them.
Mm-hmm. But in the context of TRW and the research that's being done there, was there anybody else there at TRW who?
Yes, there's different programs that they were involved in. And they were then shown in a way that their thought levels were in the conference rooms in technical meetings. And they would make their suggestions telepathically. And say one of the people that was in the meeting that was not familiar with that correspondence or those people would end up saying, those are the blues that are talking over there. That's their recommendation. And yes, they fully understand our problems in the program. So essentially what you have is telepathic information being suggested not to 3 or 5 people in the meeting, but to all of the people in the meeting. So everybody hears the suggestion. Well, where did that come from?
Well, as though they're there. So what you're telling me is everybody in that room, for whatever the purpose is and whatever the project is, everyone is privy to the blue people communication through telepathic thought.
In that level of TRW, yes, and on those programs of TRW, totally unaware in most of engineering, okay? Separate program communication advisory.
How long ago did they start their communications with TRW? Do you have any idea?
Well, this was shortly after TRW formed, okay, which was 58, 59 time period. And most of the people in TRW were actually technical consultants to the think tank at Douglas before they got involved with TRW Space Systems. And Thompson, Ramo, and Woolrich were the 3 people that were working for Douglas on these programs. So they separated and formed their own company. But the company, unlike most think tank organizations, was able to essentially come up with a requirement. The monies would be unlimited to study that program, so they do a brief program study on it, and then if it appeared to be something that was plausible, funds would just be flowing out. We have never had a problem getting money to implement different programs or different systems, medical systems, space systems, commercial systems, because we even had, like at Douglas, we had commercial space systems in design and development at TRW2. So it was easy for us to get together, have different people come in, make the recommendations on the program, and then be part of a reviewing team to establish whether we're going to go full bore on that program, and then come up with an unsolicited bid back to whatever organization this would be orientated to. If it was an Air Force missile program, we'd go for that program. If it was a Navy space communication satellite program, we'd develop an unsolicited bid for that. And I think that doing that and having advisors, such as the blue people, addressing what they were most interested in was commercial involvements, but they also assisted in the military. And so this was a major thrust inside of hundreds of different laboratories and subsystem labs who are boxed into different areas. So it's a program that the other laboratories are totally unaware of. And the top, of course, corporate, are aware of all of the programs. But different labs are totally, in fact, in some cases, there would be as many as 3 separate laboratories studying the same subject and addressing it in a different manner to find out previous to the trade-off studies. And I didn't get into trade-off studies before because they weren't done in engineering in most companies. Most companies would develop a new system and agree that that's the way it should be done. They freeze the design and they run with that development of that design. At TRW, it was always different. You went through that first phase. You came up with all of the background information, and you're convinced that's the best way to approach that program. Then you drop it. You come up with 2 different ways to initiate and discuss that program. They're called trade-off studies. Long before you ever got to an unsolicited bid back to any of your potential contractors or companies, you did the 2 studies. I don't want to change the subject, but sometimes in conversations between different people from different labs, maybe just at lunch, somebody would mention the blues. And maybe the rest of the people at that table had no idea what you were referring to. And because one fellow's referring it to his friend over here, it was the blues that did so-and-so, or they said so-and-so, like this.
So you'd hear this in casual conversation. It's code speak, but only those on the inside are...
Yeah, because you normally don't talk about that, okay?
Yeah.
But that continually did come out, and most people never put the 2 things together to what this really was, because essentially you're being advised by extraterrestrials on a standard basis.
And really, it's relatively safe anyway, because the blues could refer to anything, really, a bundle of wires, an assembly, the screwdriver, who knows, it could be anything, craftsman.
That's true, yeah. But blues came along later, and that was something on a continuous base, okay, of, you got to say, open extraterrestrial assistance.
Yeah. Did you know about the blues before Bill just now mentioned it?
Never heard of the blues.
Look, we just all kinds of revelations today here. Thank you for all these gifts, Bill. It's really...
Well, it's part of what we're doing, okay? And it's part of what we've been doing. There was, I'd like to go back, if we could, for a few minutes to Admiral Rico Botta's efforts with his operatives in Germany.
Do you want to talk about your experience and then get into that insofar as what it's like living as a young sailor working for Admiral Rico Botta?
Yeah. First of all, I won't get into it, but if any of you folks out there are interested at all in what Bob and I are saying, please pick up that book that we've got, which is Selected by Extraterrestrials, okay? And wait a minute, if you don't even buy it, just get on your computer and type in William Tompkins. You don't even have to say Tompkins, the aerospace engineer. All you have to do is just type in William Tompkins. You're going to get pages and pages and pages about this subject, okay? On the internet. Okay, but what was happening was that when I was 8 or 9 years old, I built a 6 different types of what I would assume a spaced rocket would be. I built the models, great big models. And one of the Navy commanders saw the models. He was a friend of my dad. And so he said, you ought to build ship models. That's a good model. You ought to build ship models. So anyway, I built some 45 Navy ship models, where an aircraft carrier is about this big, a destroyer is about this big, all the same scale.
These are all on display in
Yeah,
Carlsbad now.
and I'm just a kid, and so I look up stuff in the newspapers. I look and start collecting different types of magazine articles where they've got photographs of different ships. And then my dad takes us down, we were living in Hollywood. My dad takes us down to Long Beach, and the Navy has these enormous big powered open boats, powered boats that they use to transport personnel to and from the ships to the base, to the harbor. So we rode those out like on a Sunday afternoon. So we get to walk on the ships quite a bit. They hardly covered up too much, but you couldn't take a camera. So I'm interested in the latest version of, say, an aircraft carrier's secret equipment, where the 3-inch anti-aircraft guns are, where the big 5-inch automatic anti-aircraft guns are located on the ship. And I have to have my models just as most up to date as I can get them. And so then I need radar, and I need where, I didn't know it at the time, but I walked the flight deck of one of the carriers. I think it was the Lexington, and a very large ship. And they had steam catapults up on the bow where they used to catapult the aircraft off so they'd get a lot of them off real fast, whole squadron of them. And then they had arresting gears where you had a hook on the back of the airplane. You drop down on the final approach to the flight deck, and your hook that's dropped down catches on a cable, and that stops you. So you don't have to take a lot of the runway space. So, of course, those were all secret things. So I walk the deck, and I have a little pad, and I make a sketch of that, how big it is, where it's located, and this sort of thing. And then radar was a problem. But at that time, they had rectangular radars with some types of structure in between the big main support. So I walk the deck to where I can find the sun throwing a shadow onto the flight deck. So I walk that size of the shadow, and I mark that down. Then I go up to the bow, and I walk the length of the steam catapult. And when I get home, I make perspective drawings of this, and then 3 view drawings of these, so that I can add these onto the ship.
This is all from, a lot of the stuff's from memory as well, so it's from your memory and, as I understand it, and your drawings.
Yeah, and so then I make the drawings. And so publicity sort of got out on the ship models, and there was a couple of articles in the newspaper. But what was more important, they had the models located in the window of the Broadway department store on Hollywood Boulevard. And 2 naval officers saw that, and they went in and asked the people in the store who the fellow was and could you get a hold of him and this sort of thing. And there wasn't anything wrong with that. And then the next week, after they had been there, my dad is in his office over on Wilshire Boulevard, and 2 of these fellows come in, and they don't arrest him, they detain him. okay? But they detained him for 2 days and 2 nights.
This is your father.
My dad. And they want to know where he got that information, particularly with all of this secret stuff. And the fact that they had, as recently as 5 months before, relocated every anti-aircraft gun on the ship, okay? And before that, some of them didn't even have those guns on board, okay? This is before the war. So the next day, they let my dad out, and he took them over to our little 2-bedroom apartment house in Hollywood, and I shared a bedroom with my brother. And so they come in there to the bedroom, and I've got all these drawings and sketches and everything, and I've got all these newspaper articles and magazine articles and all this stuff. And it's piled halfway up to the windows on the side, all around the room. And they finally figure out this kid knows what he's doing, and he's doing something that's pretty accurate. Anyway, from that, I was called into, several months later, I was called into what would be a naval intelligence office in San Pedro, California. And they talked to me a lot. And so what I'm trying to get to here is, how did you get into the Navy, and how did you get to this position working for Admiral Rico Botta? So my dad gets contacted again. He takes off work, drives me back down to that same base, and the same Navy commander was there that we talked to, and he inducts me into the Navy. And I'm in my first year of high school, about halfway through it. So because there was a real security problem about my family moving so many times, actually my dad didn't have money to pay the rent, so we'd move into a place for 2 months, he didn't pay the rent, and we'd get thrown out and go someplace else.
So this makes getting your security clearance a little problematic, trying to track all those places.
So when they found this out, to alleviate that, the time it was going to take it, they inducted me into the Navy, okay? And they put me to work at the Vultee Aircraft Company over in Downey, California. And they were developing a new Navy gull-wing, large Navy attack aircraft in a secret area in their facility.
Excuse me, you went to basic training before this or after?
After.
After.
So the other thing I want to kind of clarify is, because I'm trying to think, how old was I when I was a sophomore in high school? 14, 15? I mean, you had to have been incredibly young. I mean, to be inducted in the Navy, be pulled out, they had to be breaking rules left and right to put you in.
Whatever it was, they did what they did. So they put me to work at this Vultee company, and supposedly it was just be for a couple of 3 weeks. Well, they did this. And so it turned out to be quite a bit longer, because there were other problems with my dad, and I guess I never found out what that was till later, and that was his involvement with Freemasons. Anyway, I didn't know anything about Dad being a Freemason. So I got notification that I was to report back to Naval Intelligence in San Pedro, and they flew me down to San Diego. And instead of going in like normal recruits, I was driven right over to the facility for the Naval Training Station in San Diego, and I went in. And so I finished half of the normal training, and I got called for another order to skip that day, and they took me in a Navy boat across the bay from the Naval Training Station to North Island. And I'm in North Island now, and I end up in an office building in an engineering department where they convert aircraft from the old versions to new versions of the airplanes, big engineering department. And I'm introduced to, well, for 2 days I just sat in this office. And then I'm introduced to a Navy commander. He gave me some papers to study, and for another couple of weeks I don't know anything else either. I don't see anybody. I talked, when I first met him, he said, don't come in here without shining your shoes. And I had a dress uniform, but I just used sort of a sloppy seaman's work uniform in an office, okay? And I guess I didn't shine my shoes. So the third week, he calls me over, and he's got a lot of stuff for me to do. And he said, I'm out of here. It's yours. That's the only instruction I got from this commander.
I'm out of here, it's yours.
It's yours.
Allow me to summarize. 14, 15 years old, go in the Navy, you don't finish your
No,
training.
17, come on.
17, okay, I don't know how old are you in ninth grade, 10th grade, 17. You know, I mean, you're not even 18 in the Navy. They put you in training, they pull you out of training, they stick you in a building over here for, read this, shine your shoes, I'm out of here, it's yours.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
No, wait a minute, I'm a
17 years old.
Okay, wait a minute, I'm a third-class seaman, okay?
Even better.
With all these officers are on, okay? And
Do you see how this doesn't make any sense?
no, it doesn't make sense, okay? This nice young lady comes over to me, and it turns out